Hi, I'm Ani Anderson,
And I'm Brian Traskos.
and we're the co-owners of New Health in Essex, New York. And we'd like to give you a gift today. We would like to give you more energy. We're going to share with you a lecture that we just presented at the Wadhams Library today. And we're going to talk about how to get more energy. People ask us that all the time when they come in. I want more energy. How do I get more energy? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, I'd like you to think about, what does it look like to you when somebody has more energy? So what does it look like when somebody has
Well,
energy?
for me, their eyes are bright and shining. Their skin looks colorful and nice and rosy. They're standing tall, engaged,
They're smiling.
connected.
Yeah. And what does it feel like in yourself to have more energy? So think about that for a second. So what does it feel like to you to have more
Well,
energy?
to me, it feels bubbly. I feel really bubbly inside, but at the same time, I feel grounded and focused.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about energy where you're just scattered and all over the place and can't keep it together. This is an energy where you're engaged,
Yeah.
but you're still focused, and but vibrancy is kind of flowing through you.
Yeah, it feels like a fullness on the inside. I feel like I'm inspired, but I don't feel like I'm flying around. I feel really grounded. I like that word as well. Yeah. So what does energy feel like in your body? What is the felt sense of energy? And actually what we're going to do is do a very short activity now, and then we're going to do a little lecture and then finish off with an exercise. So just to start, I want you to feel what it feels like to feel more energy in your body. So take your hands and go like this. Okay. And stop, and you might even close your eyes, and notice the sensations in your stop.
Feels good.
Notice the sensations in your cheeks, and notice the difference from the rest of your body. So what are some of the sensations that you feel in your cheeks right now that are different than the rest of your body?
Bubbly.
They feel kind of tingly,
Yeah. Stingly.
stingly,
Yeah.
full.
Yeah.
They feel alive, right? Your cheeks feel more alive than the rest of your body. So go ahead and take your hands and rub them on your head for a second. Give yourself a new hairdo.
This feels so good when you don't have hair.
And rub your temples. And you can give yourself little taps on your forehead and your jaw and your cheeks again, and maybe under your nose. And then go ahead and stop. And how does your face feel? Does it feel any more alive than before you did that? And for me, it does. My face feels really good right now, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a little bit more energy.
Floating. Yeah, light.
It feels good. Okay, so enjoy getting more energy, and thank you so much for watching this video.
I'd like to start this discussion by considering some words from a 16th century alchemist. That which is looked upon by one generation as the apex of human knowledge is often considered an absurdity by the next, and that which is regarded as superstition in one century may form the basis of science for the following one. Remember when the earth was flat? When the earth was flat, this was taken as gospel. This is how the world worked. This is how it was. And anything thought of in any other way was heresy until that was proven to be different. And then the world was round. And centuries ago, we have images like in the lower right-hand part of the screen where healing light and energy coming from maybe Christ's hands or Saint Francis's hands and doing healing works were known, but regarded as superstition, or maybe even witches, being able to do healing energy. And at a certain point in time, people who claimed to have this power or who had been marked as having this strange power were hung or decapitated or tortured in other ways. But what we know now is that there are great possibilities and potentials for these healing resources and energies and the science behind these things that we're going to look at now. What is energy? Many times when we talk about having more energy, we think it's some esoteric thing that we have to go out and grab and have, and we have to find it in some strange environment, or that there's this odd energy that connects people together that we just don't understand. But for a moment, let's back down a little bit and consider what energy we do understand and we do really know about. Well, we have electrical, magnetic, thermal, light, gravitational, vibrational, elastic, kinetic, sound. These are all forms of energy that exist in our everyday world and in our everyday lives that we don't always recognize as being pertinent to us. We live in this world where there's Wi-Fi and there's microwaves and there's radio waves buzzing through the air at all times. There's energy buzzing around us at all times. But somehow we forget that our human bodies are also a part of that genre, a part of this experience. And we pretend that our human bodies are solid when we have all this energy whirling and whizzing around us. So looking at a brief history of bioenergy, in 1906, Einthoven discovered that the heart gave off an electrical signal, gave off electrical information. And before this point in time, this was regarded as, again, heresy, impossible that the human body in some way gives off electricity. How could that even be considered? Well, in 1906, it was discovered that the heart does have an electrical rhythm. In 1929, it was discovered that the brain sends off electrical impulses as well. 1967, Cohen discovered that the heart has a magnetic field. This makes sense because electrical and magnetic always go together. It's electromagnetism. It's never one without the other. Wherever there's an electrical current, there's a magnet set up around it. And whenever there's a magnet, there's some type of electrical current that's created as well. And so in our bodies also, if there's electricity running through our bodies, then we also have magnetism in our bodies. So Cohen discovered in 1967 that there's a magnetic field around the heart, and it's actually 1,000 times stronger than the magnetic field around the brain, which wasn't discovered or approved until 1972. Makes sense because the heart field is stronger than the brain field. Also, it's been shown that the magnetic field of the heart propagates 14 feet away from the body, 14 feet out. And this is how far it's been discovered so far based on the limitations of the instruments that were being used. That's as far as the instruments could measure was 14 feet from the heart, and there was still a signal traveling at that point. So for all we know, the magnetic field of the heart could extend even further than that. When we're all together and in closer than 14-foot proximity to each other, our magnetic fields of our heart are mixing together. And some people can be trained to feel this magnetic field of other people's hearts and bodies. And then in 1978, Bassett discovered that the body has piezoelectric properties in what's called our connective tissue. We're going to talk more in detail about our connective tissue in just a moment. But what piezoelectric means is that when pressure is applied, electricity is created. This is often used in grills. When you snap that presser button down on the grill to light your grill up in the presence of propane. So when you compress the grill button, you get a pressure, creates a spark, and then you have a lit grill. In our bodies, when we have pressure in the body somewhere, a tug, a pull, a stretch, a movement, our connective tissue actually depolarizes and creates an electrical magnetic field through our connective tissue. So let's look at that now. This was the old image of a cell, decades and decades and decades ago. So even 100 years ago, when in textbooks, when they're teaching doctors and medical professionals what a cell looked like, this is what it looked like. It's basically a bag. It's got a border around the outside of it, and then inside of that border, inside of the cell wall is a bunch of goop, and with some material in there, some mitochondria and some centrosomes, different organelles in there that float around in this goop and bang into each other, and maybe once in a while have a process occur. So this is the old version of what a cell looked like. And then a couple of decades ago, and actually regrettably, this picture of the cell is still seen mostly in textbooks that are even taught today. But we know a couple of decades ago, once the instrumentation has become specific enough to dive deeper into what the cellular structure actually looks like, it actually looks like this. Every cell in our body has what's called a cytoskeleton. You can see inside of that cell wall, there's all these little fibers like this fishnet that wiggles in towards the DNA, in towards the nucleus of the cell. And then even within the nucleus of the cell, there's also a fishnet. And that fishnet also extends outside of the cell wall as well. And so everything is connected. 100 trillion cells in the body are all connected via this fibrous network, which is called this connective tissue network. So every cell in the body is integrated and connected via this system. The cell wall isn't a separation between the inside and the outside of the cell anymore. And it's not like the inside of the cell is a separate unit from the outside of the cell or even the cell next to it. With this cytoskeleton model of image that we know exists nowadays, like this, there's these thread-like connective tissue linkages that go inside of the cell, connect through the cell wall to outside of the cell and into every cell next to it. So this is the connective tissue imagery, and these are single muscle fibers. These things that look like ribs are single muscle fibers, and this is the connective tissue between these single muscle fibers, connecting them together. So we even see them on a larger scale now. The last slide was the cell. This is larger than a cell and connected between individual muscle fibers. And even further out here, we see that it goes even more into not only the muscle fibers, but into the muscle groups or the motor units that connect all these muscles together. It just keeps going out further and further and further until we end up with this, until we end up with our human body being a continuum of fibrous networks in these lines. You can see the way that the muscle travels from one connection point to another connection point along these very obvious lines. And these are those connective tissue lines that continue to propagate out further and further and further. So it starts at the single cell in every cell in the body and then connects into every other cell until it becomes us. And this is our connective tissue network. So when we have a compression through our connective tissue network, such as our heart beating, it creates a magnetic field. On image studies, this is what the field, the magnetic field of the heart looks like. It propagates out from the body at least 14 feet, and then out up the top of the head, cascades down around the side, and then enters again in through the bottom of the body, just like a magnet would. The top part of the head being the North Pole and the bottom part being the South Pole, with the magnetic field circulating around. Now, when that magnetic field is set up, it creates this tuning fork mechanism. So we all understand how tuning forks work. You knock a tuning fork, it starts to resonate at a certain frequency. You bring it close to another tuning fork, and without touching it, the second tuning fork starts resonating at the same frequency as a tuning fork that was oscillating. And if you bring that in a proximity to another tuning fork, you get more oscillating and more oscillating and more oscillating until no matter how many tuning forks you did this with, you'd have a whole bunch, hundreds or thousands of tuning forks all oscillating at the same frequency as that original tuning fork. In our body, the heart acts as the first tuning fork, creating that magnetic field for the rest of our body to oscillate along with. And it oscillates through that connective tissue matrix, through that network that we talked about that goes from every little cell all the way through out to our entire body, with every one of those fibers beginning to oscillate and move. And remember, vibration, oscillation is a form of energy. It's a form of energy. And certainly when we get that oscillating and that vibrational frequency going, we are also adding to our electromagnetic field, because that creates that flow of that information, what's called our piezoelectric information through our connective tissue. Let's look back at our history of bioenergy and build on it a little bit. So we left off in 1978 with Bassett with the piezoelectric properties of the connective tissue. And in 1992, Seto in Japan discovered that biomagnetic fields can be emanated from the hands of Qigong practitioners. So Qigong practitioners are energy workers. They're people who know how to work with the energy of their body in order to help and heal other people. And so when they looked at this, they discovered that the magnetic energy fields from the hands were 1,000 times greater than the heart field, making the biomagnetic fields from the hands being 1,000,000 times more powerful than the magnetic fields from the brain. In 1997, Tiller, who studied bioenergy and electromagnetic energy and infrared emissions, basically said, and it's quoted, that the human body is a light machine. The human body actually gives off light. The human body gives off photons. And light is another form of energy. So we start off with discovering that the human body has an electrical properties, and then magnetic properties, and then piezoelectric properties, and then more powerful magnetic properties. And finally, we come to the idea and the discovery that the human body gives off light. Van Wyck noted that the living bodies store energy. The living bodies store energy. That biophotons, or light emissions, can be measured in the skin and in the breath. They have devices to do this now. They also measure light in plants to determine how healthy the plants are and how well they will reproduce and create fruit and vegetables and these types of things. And finally, Van Wyck also noted that the capacity to store light is increased when the system is in a state of coherence. So what's coherence? Well, remember the tuning forks? When you have multiple tuning forks all resonating at the same frequency, you have coherence. Everything's resonating together. And in our human body, when our human body is in a state of coherence, in other words, when our heart resonance and our lung resonance and our stomach resonance and our muscular resonance and our bone resonance and our spinal cord resonance and our brain resonance, when it's all resonating at the same frequency, our body has an enhanced capacity to store light, which is energy. Light is energy. How do we move towards thinking about tuning the body and resonance and coherence? An orchestra would be in coherence if all of the instruments in the orchestra are perfectly tuned to one another and they all play a wonderful, beautiful song and they're all tuned. And what would happen if the violin in the third row was out of tune? We'd probably notice that, especially if you had a good ear for these types of things, you'd notice it. And in our body, that's basically what it is. 100 trillion cells, 100 trillion instruments playing in this massive orchestra. And when they're all in tune with each other, we create higher rates of resonance. How do we do this? And how do we allow coherence? And I'll talk about why we use that word allow coherence in just a moment. From studies, from scientific studies, and from ancient practices, we get this information on how do we allow our body to come into coherence? How do we allow our heart to lead the coherent resonance for the rest of our body? Well, the very first thing is alignment. We align our bodies so that our tail is, or our sacrum rather, is settled down and relatively straight. Our spine is relatively straight, and our head is lifted up towards the sky, so our spine feels long and elongated and stretched in a comfortable way, of course. And alignment is important because imagine that image of our body being a cello and tuning all of the strings in the cello. If the neck is bent on the cello, chances are those strings aren't going to be getting tuned very well. And that's the same way it is with our body. If our body is this instrument of resonance, alignment is really important. The next thing is deep breathing. Deep breathing is critical because the diaphragm, which sits underneath the heart, actually helps the heart entrain the rhythm for the rest of the body. So the diaphragm, when it drops down towards the belly in a diaphragmatic breath, the connective tissue that is between the diaphragm and the heart helps to create that piezoelectric effect, creating an information flow between the diaphragm and the heart. It helps model the heart in terms of keeping its resonant rate. If the heart's beating and racing really fast, and such as if you've just been in a near-miss car accident, or you've just been chased by a dog, or even if you're thinking about something really stressful or anxiety-provoking, you notice your heart is racing. Check in with the rest of your body and ask yourself, does my body feel like it's in sync? Chances are your breath will be shallow and rapid, your heart will be beating, you'll be sweating, your shoulders will be tightened up in your neck, and nothing seems to really be working together in that way. Gentle movement is the next thing we think about. When we move in gentle ways, we are creating that piezoelectric effect through the connective tissue. We're gently stretching and expanding and contracting and releasing and moving our body in a way to create a pump of fluid, of lymph fluid through the system, of synovial fluid in the joints, and of piezoelectric or electromagnetic properties through the connective tissue as well, which will begin to stretch and loosen areas in our connective tissue that are tight. When you have a tight or stiff back, we might notice that that doesn't seem to function with the rest of your body. And it makes it difficult for you to move your whole body when your back is tight. And this goes back to that idea that if our body is connected via this connective tissue system, one big spider web, one big net, if even one part of that net is tight, then it affects the whole net. So the gentle movement helps to open up those areas that are tight and bring our body into a possibility of having better coherence and resonance. Relaxation is critical as well. As we deepen our breath and we relax, muscle tension drops. Just as what we were just talking about, if you have muscle tension in your neck and you're trying to move your body in a different way, or you're trying to relax or move comfortably or easily, you'll find out that it's even difficult to move your legs or your arms if your neck is tight because of that tension. Looking back at that cello idea, if you have all of the strings perfectly tuned and it's playing beautifully, and then one of the strings gets tighter, you'll notice the cello goes out of tune. Relaxation throughout the body allows coherence to happen. We know that when we have these four things take place, alignment, deep breathing, gentle movement, relaxation, your brain waves go into what we call an alpha state, which is essentially between 7 and 14 hertz of frequency. This alpha state has been correlated to our body tissues maximally healing. Such as a bone stimulator. If anyone's ever had a bone stimulator on their body to help the bone heal faster, what that essentially is, it's a magnetic field. They put a battery pack around the bone. The battery pack, which is electrical, creates a magnetic field, which propagates a magnetic field around the bone. And that healing of that frequency is going to probably be in that 7 to 14 hertz, because bone healing happens in that range somewhere. We know that skin healing, nerve regeneration, vascular healing, all of those things take place in the alpha state. When our ordinary kind of buzz awareness, we're running all over the place, is called beta, a beta state, and that's 14 to 20 hertz. That's above 14 hertz, and our body can't effectively heal when we're in that beta state. So the alpha state's really important. What I really think is interesting, when we take it one step further and look at what's called the Schumann resonance. So Schumann discovered that the resonance of the earth, or the vibrational properties of the earth is vibrating underneath us. It's shimmering, it's oscillating. It's actually between 7 and 10 hertz is the average resonance frequency of the earth. Interesting, isn't it? Because our alpha state is between 7 and 14 hertz when our body maximally heals. So if we're talking about tuning forks, we know that big tuning forks help little tuning forks tune themselves. The biggest tuning fork around is the earth, what's right underneath us. It's huge, massive, resonating, oscillating at 7 to 10 hertz. And so if we can bring ourselves into alignment and deep breathing and gentle movement, and even if you can't physically move because you're too weak or too tired, simply the deep breathing of your diaphragm will create the movement necessary throughout your body to have a lymph flow pump through the body and certainly circulate blood and other fluids. And then coming into relaxation, by doing these things, we allow our body to relax and open up and resonate with the big tuning fork that we're standing on, the earth. And when we can enter into that state and allow ourselves to resonate with the earth at that frequency, our bodies can maximally heal, because the body tissues heal when they're in the alpha state. I'd like to finish with a final thought from Einstein. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Even from Einstein, resonant frequencies, coherence, doing this enough, doing this frequently enough to allow ourselves to resonate with the energies of Earth and the galaxy beyond, actually, also. We allow ourselves to resonate with these planetary and stellar forces. Our realities can possibly shift as well. and we start to experience things in a greater state of allowing and ease. Allowing and ease.
Okay, so let's get more energy. I'd like you to find a comfortable place to sit. You can also stand. I'm on a chair right now, and I'm kind of scooched towards the front of my chair so that my feet are flat and rested on the ground, and my spine can be long. So oftentimes in American culture, we think that relaxation means sitting on a couch, eating potato chips, watching television, but actually, what we're talking about here when we talk about being relaxed is being in an active and alert state of relaxation. So get in a position where your spine can be nice and tall, okay? And just for a moment, go ahead and tap your feet on the ground so that you can actually feel the earth underneath of you. And I want you to imagine that you have a big kind of circle on the bottom of your foot. And we're going to walk ourselves up the body and release tension. And you can imagine that the tension is just draining out of your feet into the earth. So go ahead and close your eyes at any time so that you can really feel into your body. And first, I want you to just bring your attention to your feet. And imagine any tension in your feet draining right out your feet and into the earth. Just like water dripping off your body. And then bring your awareness to your lower legs. And again, let any tension just drip and drain out your feet into the earth. Now your thighs, bring your attention to your thighs. And let your tension just drip down your legs, out your feet, and down into the earth. And I feel already like I want to take a deep breath. So if you feel like a breath is coming and a deep breath is coming, just take a deep breath and take a moment and relax your breathing apparatus as well. So focusing on the belly now and the pelvis. Any tension, just imagine it draining out your legs and down. And bring your attention to your chest and your shoulders and your arms. Imagine all the tension draining right down and out. And noticing your neck and your face. I imagine myself sometimes like a wax candle, like the wax is just dripping, 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 down, down, down. And I feel kind of a heaviness. And notice that I'm not slouching. I'm still maintaining my upright posture. Good, so letting all of that tension drip out our feet into the earth. And now bring our awareness to our breath and just notice how you're breathing. And invite your breath to be a little bit deeper and a little bit slower. And let's go ahead and breathe in our nose and out our mouths a few times to release tension and relax. So you can even sigh on the way out. Good. And how about one more? Good. So imagine that your tailbone is heavy and it's being drawn towards the earth, and that your head is like a hot air balloon and it's going up towards the sky, and that's going to make your spine really long. So we're paying attention to the length of our spine and allowing that to be nice and relaxed, so not feeling stiff, but feeling really relaxed. It's like a hose, you know, your spine is like a hose. If you kink the hose, you sit in ways that kink the hose, then energy can't run up and down your spine, so keeping it nice and long. Okay, now we're going to take an in-breath, and as we do, you're going to bring your arms up, your hands up to your nose. And as you breathe out, bring your hands down towards your belly. This is called a gathering breath. So you're gathering with your hands, bring up towards your nose and down to your belly. So do this a handful of times, and you can imagine that the air is coming in your nose and it's going into your belly, so it's being stored there. It's just like our bank accounts. If we never take time to bring energy in and store it, then we won't have any energy when we need it. Or it's like our gas tank in our car. You know, so many of us run around all the time on like an eighth of a tank of gas without enough gas in our tanks. Well, you need to take time throughout the day to bring energy in and fill your gas tank up so that you have a lot of gas to run on throughout the day. So this is what we're doing now. So you can imagine as you're breathing, filling up a tank that's inside of your belly. So I really love to work with visualizations. Maybe you can visualize what that energy might look like if it looked like something. Like I'm imagining bringing in like a blue sparkly energy and putting it into my belly today. Good. So you could do this as many times as you want. You could do it for as few as 2 or 3 minutes a day, or throughout your day, or even for one breath. Sometimes this is something that I do at a stoplight. The stoplight comes up, I'm stopped in my car, and I take a nice big gathering breath. And I just put gas in my tank to increase my energy and my vitality. So let's try another one. Now let me adjust this a little bit. What I'd like you to do is bring your hands in front of you, and as you breathe in, your hands expand, and as you breathe out, your hands come together. So breathing in and breathing out. Now you should always maintain a comfortable position. So I'm actually going to stand up now because you can do this standing too, of course. And I want to show you that as I do this, my posture is still really aligned and my shoulders are really comfortable. So I'm not crunching anything here as I just breathe in and out. And you can even expand your breath a little deeper and a little slower as you breathe. So sometimes we call this accordion breathing, and this is another one that we really like to do. It really doesn't take hardly any time at all. And let's take one more. And just stop and notice how you feel. So do you feel any more relaxed than when you started the exercises? Do you feel any interesting sensations in your body, like heat or tingling or like a running sensation? Do you feel energized? I often feel like a tingly sensation or warmth in my chest and my belly when I do these kinds of things. And that's a sign that I've increased my vitality. So just notice that for yourself right now. Notice where you feel different and how you feel different. Good. So the last thing for right now is just put your hands on your belly and give yourself a few little circles like this. And know that you just did a few really easy things to fill up your gas tank and have more energy and vitality in your life. So your gas tank's right here and you just filled it up. So acknowledging that, knowing that you just did that for yourself. It doesn't have to take long and you can do it anytime throughout the day. So if anything, remember while you're sitting at your desk or you're sitting in your car, lengthen your spine. And whenever you think about it, take a deep breath because it's really going to help you to fill that tank and feel better and have more energy throughout your day, all day long. So just to wrap up, at New Health, we like to talk about the facts of New Health. Facts, F-A-C-T-S. F stands for feelings, A stands for actions, C stands for consumptions, T stands for thoughts, and S stands for self and service. So in terms of getting more energy, I'd like you to think about during the day, what does it feel like to have more energy? And how can you feel like that more often? A, what actions can you take, like the ones that we just did, to increase your vitality, increase your energy throughout the day? Consumption, C, what are you consuming, either in your food or in your environment or through media, that increases your energy? And are there things that you're consuming that suck your energy and you don't want to consume them anymore? Thoughts, what kind of thoughts are you thinking that add to your vitality? And see if you can switch your thoughts when you notice that you're thinking draining thoughts to thoughts that are more energizing. And self and service. Remember to take time to take care of yourself, like doing things that we just did, so that you can be of service, so that you can make a difference in the world, in your family, in your community, and in the lives of others. But you got to take that time for you so that you can be of service to others. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please share it up with your friends so that they can have more energy and vitality too, and you can work on these things together. It really helps to have other people in your life who are doing similar things to you, and it just adds the momentum and the vitality in your family, in your community, in your workplace, and all around for everybody. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.